Every time a surgeon washes their hands before operating on you, they are repeating the idea that got a man locked away in an asylum. His name was Ignaz Semmelweis. He discovered how to stop mothers from dying in childbirth, and the world destroyed him for saying it out loud. I'm a vascular surgeon, and everything I'm about to tell you comes from the records of the Vienna General Hospital and from medical journals still being published today. You're going to see how a dead friend's autopsy solved the mystery, why nobody wanted to believe him, and it's not the reason you've been told, and what remains of this story inside a modern operating room. By the end, you'll understand why this story isn't over yet. Vienna, 1847. The largest maternity hospital in Europe has two clinics. On paper, they are identical. In the first clinic, deliveries are handled by medical students. In the second, by midwives. And the women of Vienna will do almost anything to avoid the first one. Some of them beg on their knees to be admitted with the midwives. Others prefer to give birth in the street, on the cobblestones, and walk in afterwards. And they are not being irrational. In the first clinic, the one run by future doctors, up to 3 times more mothers die of a disease called childbed fever, puerperal fever. In the worst months, by the figures of the time, as many as 1 mother in 3 does not leave that ward alive. Working in that clinic is a young physician named Ignaz Semmelweis, Hungarian, 29 years old, first assistant of the ward. His colleagues shrug and blame the miasmas, the corrupted air that was supposed to carry disease. That answer isn't good enough for him, and one question gets under his skin and stays there. If the two clinics are the same, why does one of them kill 3 times as many women? He tries everything. He changes the position mothers give birth in. He even reroutes the priest who delivers the last rites in case the sound of the bell is frightening women to death. The numbers do not move. He is completely in the dark. And then the answer arrives in the worst way imaginable, with the death of his best friend. His friend, Professor Jakob Kolechka, cuts his finger with a scalpel during an autopsy, a scratch, a nothing injury. Days later, he is dead. When Semmelweis reads the autopsy report, his blood runs cold. The lesions inside his friend's body are identical to the lesions in the mothers who died of childbed fever. That is the click. If his friend died from being infected by a corpse, and the mothers are dying of the same thing, then someone is carrying death from the autopsy room to the delivery ward. And who moves back and forth between the corpses and the mothers all day long with bare hands? The medical students. The midwives never touch a cadaver. The doctors were killing their own patients with their own hands. Semmelweis orders every student to wash their hands in a chlorinated lime solution before touching a patient, and mortality collapses from more than 10% to around 2%. He should have been a hero. Instead, they pushed him out. But before you judge those doctors from your couch, wait. Because the story you've probably heard, that they rejected him because he was difficult, stubborn, impossible to work with, is largely a myth. Medical historians, and here I am following Kadar's analysis in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, are clear about it. He was rejected because he was right too early. In 1847, germs did not exist. Not as an idea. There was no germ theory, no microscope slide he could point to and say, this is the enemy. Semmelweis couldn't show anyone the killer. All he had was a statistic, an overwhelming one, but a statistic. He called it decaying organic animal matter, an invisible something that clung to the hands. He knew it was there, he just couldn't see it. And there was a darker reason not to believe him, one that has to do with what it means to admit you've been killing people without knowing it. Accepting Semmelweis meant accepting something unbearable, that for generations, doctors, with their clean reputations and their authority, had been the executioners of their own patients, carrying the smell of the autopsy room to the bedside of a healthy mother. It is far easier to call the messenger insane than to look down at your own hands. His doctrine contradicted every accepted theory of disease at once, and on top of that, he got trapped in the political wars of the University of Vienna, which turned his own superior against him. So the man who had just found one of the most valuable pieces of knowledge in the history of medicine was quietly forced out of Vienna. Now let me take you somewhere I know well, a modern operating room a few minutes before surgery. Watch what a surgeon does every single morning. Before operating, I scrubbed my hands and forearms for several minutes with chlorhexidine, an antiseptic, holding my hands up the whole time so the water runs down toward my elbows and never back over my clean fingers. That chlorhexidine is a direct descendant of Semmelweis's chlorine. Every morning, without thinking about it, surgeons all over the world repeat the exact gesture that cost him his sanity. And there is one detail that has always stayed with me. He chose chlorine, not soap, for a very specific reason. Soap could not remove the smell of the cadavers from the students' hands. The smell of death survived the washing. He needed something that would erase what could not be seen. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it was still there. Now comes the uncomfortable part for those of us who wear the white coat. Almost 180 years have passed. We know he was right. We have the germ theory, the microscopes, the randomized trials, and still, the studies on hand hygiene compliance among healthcare workers are embarrassing. For years, the measured rates hovered around 40%. A 2021 systematic review in the Journal of Hospital Infection places most observed rates between 60 and 70%. The World Health Organization made hand hygiene its first global patient safety challenge precisely because we still don't do it well enough. Stop and think about that. The cheapest, most thoroughly proven, most life-saving gesture in all of medicine, and we only half comply with it. Semmelweis did not lose his battle in 1865. We keep losing it for him every time someone walks into a hospital room without washing their hands. And childbed fever itself never fully disappeared. Puerperal sepsis remains a major cause of maternal death worldwide, and its most aggressive form, caused by Group A streptococcus, can still kill between 30 and 50% of the mothers it strikes. And Semmelweis never saw any of it vindicated. After Vienna, he returned to Budapest, where he imposed the same chlorine washing and once again drove mortality down. It didn't matter. Recognition never came. By 1865, his mind was failing. From what, we still don't know for certain. Sepsis, early dementia, and syphilis have all been proposed, and honest historians leave the question open. That summer, he was committed to an asylum. When he resisted, the guards beat him. The wounds became infected, and 2 weeks later, the man who taught the world how to defeat infection died of one, beaten, and alone at 47 years old. 15 years later, Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch proved that microbes exist. The invisible enemy finally had a face, and the world understood, far too late, what that decaying organic matter had been all along, and that a Hungarian obstetrician had learned how to fight it without ever seeing it. He saved thousands of mothers with a bucket of chlorinated water, and it cost him everything. Today, his name is on medical schools, on a university in Budapest, on the very concept of washing your hands. History remembered him in the end. It just waited until he was gone. If stories like this one interest you, the forgotten failures and impossible victories buried in the history of medicine, this channel is dedicated to them, and the next one is already on its way.